We might have to have one design to show something. Golf carts.
Made that decision at those days. Took me 2 years.
Why wouldn't you?
Of course. Well, you know, the vast majority,
Last
that's very common.
Oh, I know it is.
You know,
Yeah.
it is for real. A little? I think we might have some of that at the very top.
Oh, I'm sure.
Probably a lot of,
I bet. Yeah, I don't know that at all.
imagine it's funded
Yeah.
multiple. That would just be my guess.
I want smaller and smaller and smaller.
I would be stunned if that had not done.
Me too. Most definitely.
No, I just feel like
That's what?
his partner, Carl,
That's right. Yep,
Associates.
that's right.
They'll be billed at her
I do remember that. Good point.
It's
That's
right
exactly right. Oh, man.
That was, you know, my dad would be in Alice in Paradise.
Yeah.
A lot of people did.
Right.
Seriously. The hypocrisy and the whole,
Yeah, I go to
I just can't even.
Big 3-story building.
And yet he makes that statement about. But that's okay.
But yeah,
Just under 10. Modern, so how I got out.
oh, some holiday hours.
ask him to get low or something maybe.
Wasn't that sweet? No, holiday hours is how I was thinking.
Well, your potassium gets low, you can get crazy. Or at least people in my family can.
Yeah. It sounds like very
Wow. Yeah.
He's kind of
13 bass.
I'm working in Texas and he's working on
Actually, 10.
That was never even a thought.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Seriously.
I didn't wrap my head around that.
It's just every day is
It is.
fascinating.
That's one way to put it. It is.
3-2.
Well, the whole.
Yeah,
You
Commissioner
and-
Nipper.
Do we have any minutes? I never saw
Manager
minutes.
recommendation.
Hey, Kim, do we have any minutes? I don't see minutes. Huh?
Seems like she did.
I'm guessing I can have a workshop tonight since that's something that needs to go on.
All right, the color deviation's been withdrawn.
Is this all we have?
I want to call the meeting to order for Thursday, October 5th, the Walton County Design Review Board meeting. Yeah. Don't have the minutes ready, so we'll push that one to the next meeting. Announcements, Mac?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, we have a withdrawal of item number 3. And we have a request to continue on item number 2 to the next meeting. And we probably need separate motions to address those 2 items.
Okay.
So if you guys would like to entertain a motion to continue item number 2,
So moved.
Second.
and that would be to the November, what's the date? November 2nd, 2017 meeting.
All in favor?
I.
And then with item number 3, if it's been withdrawn by the applicant, there's no action required by the board at this time.
Okay. So,
And additionally, as we only have 4 members, and I think it requires a 4-member vote to approve a deviation.
Yes. So
Number 4 is requesting several deviations.
is the applicant here on item number 4? Okay. If you'd like, you can come forward. I guess we could go ahead and address that now. Yes, ma'am. So, you're requesting a deviation. This board can only approve a deviation with a concurring vote of 4 members.
Okay.
No matter how many members are present, you still have to have 4 members vote in favor of the deviation. We're short tonight 3 members. So in order for this deviation request to be approved tonight, all 4 members present would have to vote in favor of the deviation request. We're happy to go forward tonight if you want to, but you have to go forward with that understanding, or you can request a continuance and we can hear the item in November when all the board members will be here.
If we can request the continuance, that would be great.
Okay?
can,
It's just a motion to continue.
can I have a motion to continue then?
Yes.
Tina
second.
Robertson,
All in favor?
ROBERTSON.
Aye.
Aye.
Pass? You're continued,
Thank you.
November 2nd.
Oh, I'm sorry, who made the motion to continue? Okay, Colleen, and Lourdes seconded.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Karen.
Okay, so where are we moving that to now, Sydney, to number 1?
Yep, so now we're on number 1.
Yeah. Vivian has reviewed item number 1, and she will make our presentation.
Good afternoon, board members. We did just want to check and see if you are comfortable with making the recommendations with the 4 board members versus a fuller board, but that would be how you would feel about it. I think we've been waiting to go ahead, so.
I have a question. Are we currently allowing farmers market events under the current policy in the county?
We are allowing them under the outdoor event ordinance, but the problem being that tents are specifically not allowed, and so we want to address that and signage, and so currently they're not allowed to have their any additional signage, and definitely could not put the tents in some of the locations they wanted to do.
Would we, in your opinion, create any hardships if there was a continuance of this till next week? Because I know one of the board members that is very interested in this is not here tonight.
Mm-hmm. Had a great deal
Yeah.
of input
Yeah.
last time.
I can't personally speak to that. We do have.
I have no problem getting a continuance for November. You know, but I'm not asking for a guarantee, but it seems every time we come to one of the meetings, we get a continuance because there's always not enough board members. And we started this actually back in April, and you know the season's pretty much over. But what I would like to do is definitely at some point in time before, I guess, the first of the year, is get everybody that needs to be involved in the voting process to take a hard look at it, because there are going to create hardships for a lot of these vendors and a lot of the merchants, because the farmers markets bring business to the merchants where we set up our markets, and they are temporary events, and they're very well professionally done. And I'm sure each and every one of you have been to at least one of our farmers markets. You know, we're an asset. You know, we're not trying to take over. We're not trying to put a farmer's market every 100 yards and in every little strip center. We're just trying to do it with due diligence and, you know, through the commission and through the county with all our permits, and do it professionally. But it just seems like, you know, when we want to, you know, as far as the signage and the variances, it's like we're bumping heads or, you know, locking horns, so to speak. It's sometimes where, you know, we can't be behind the structures, and like the one that we have in Grand Boulevard, we've been there for 3 years, and because of the foot traffic where we are, it works out. But, you know, once again, we're not allowed to have any signage on Scenic Highway 98, where you have tens of thousands of vehicles riding by each and every day, which it's a numbers game. All retail is a numbers game. So,
Well-
but, you know, long story short, if we can get everybody, you know, that's gonna be involved
What
in November.
What we could do, sorry, sir,
That's okay.
didn't mean to cut you off. What we could do, though, I guess to move the process along next month, is I could send out an email to all the board members and for your suggestions and ask you just to put them in writing. And don't respond to each other, but send them all back to me, and then they'll all be in your board packet whenever you come back in November. So then that way, if anyone's not here in November,
Right.
we'll at least have their written suggestions for everyone else to consider.
I know I'm not gonna be here.
Okay.
I'm
Would you be
going on
comfortable with that,
vacation.
Board
Yeah,
Ed?
yes.
Okay. We could do
That'd be
that if
fine.
you guys
I
would
think
like.
we're like you, we would like for Walton County to have a nice product out there.
Right.
We want the same thing. We want business to be energized and our guests to enjoy themselves and folks to sell a lot of stuff. But
Sure.
we want it done in a manner that's consistent with this piece of the beach. And,
Sure.
and I think, I know specifically one other gentleman that's on the board has some very, very definite ideas, and I think he needs to be heard.
Well, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Maybe what we could do is just briefly, we've pretty much whittled it down. We've whittled the ordinance itself down, simplified it, and we're pretty much down to just 4 topics for discussion. And so
Okay.
if you would like, I mean,
Could we discuss it and not have to vote this time? I mean, so that she can present to the 4 of us and just have a discussion
However
or
you
not?
guys,
But,
however you guys would like to proceed.
but just, we wouldn't have a vote and it would be continued in the next,
We
Meeting.
can do it that way if you'd like.
is that okay?
Yep. Sure. Anything that will help forward progress.
Yeah, at least, you know, you
Yeah.
feel like you're presenting something. Okay.
okay, that sounds good. Just looking at the draft ordinance, let's see. That you have, it's 3 pages, should be the first thing after the memo there, and pretty much made the changes up to date that we had agreed on regarding the outdoor review process and so forth. We're pretty much down to page 2.
Vivian, I'm
Yes.
so sorry.
I have a paper copy if you guys needed to.
Or I just need to know exactly which one we're
Number
looking
2.
at. Number two. That's-
Okay,
that
farmer's
answers my
market,
question.
okay.
Perfect. Sorry, thank you.
Page 2 of the draft ordinance. We're down to location of where they can occur, what distance from 98. We had originally had, I think, 150 foot or so. We reviewed it with the 30 Avenue, and 75 foot would be sufficient for them to keep it within the confines of their development, their buildings and their corridors and so forth. That would work well for them. Doesn't affect Grand Boulevard, but Seascape is the one that it does affect. That would put it in the parking lot. So they've kind of determined that it has not been, there is not enough room at the back of the development to have it contained, back within the building area and other common areas. So just so that you are aware of that. Mac and I had discussed the possibility of trying this ordinance out with a sunset clause in it, to maybe try it for a year to see if if that works. Regarding taking up the parking spaces, that they would be at Seascape in the front of the buildings or not. So that's a suggestion that we have on that.
And can I make another comment on this specific issue? To me, an ordinance needs to have something that we think will work most of the time. And if 150 feet or 100 feet or 125 feet is what we think would be appropriate in most cases, but we know we have a specific existing situation that it wouldn't work for, but it would, for instance, 30 Avenue, we can see they can come to us and present a site plan. I think we may have already looked at the actual plan and talked about, and we know where the tents would be. And if it integrates into the development well, and we're comfortable with that, we can approve a deviation for that specific property. Is that an accurate assessment that we could?
Yeah, you could make it that the site plan would need board approval.
That's right, because these won't come to us, correct?
Correct.
All right, so that's not going to apply there.
So
But we could say that if they want it to be closer than whatever the rule is, they can come to this board to request that. Is that just
That's,
overkill?
I think it's
If you,
pretty-
you need to come up if
I'm
you're
sorry.
gonna, that's okay.
If I could.
Please.
I mean, that's pretty much what we're requesting right now. Like,
State your name for the record,
Mark,
please.
I'm sorry, Mark Fearkolb. I'm market manager for Grand Boulevard, Rosemary Beach, and 30 Avenue. And I'm also here on Diane Kolopanis' behalf. She's in Nashville. But that's pretty much, the ordinance as far as the variance of distance from the highway is what we're requesting now. And I see what you're saying, and you're trying to, sounds to me like you're trying to figure out a way to, get us in there. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it works for everybody concerned. And, I'm all for that as well.
So it's just something to think about as we zero in on this at the next meeting.
But is there anything from us as, market managers, and like you were mentioning the site plan, is there anything else you might need from us in writing or drawings or anything for the next meeting requesting that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're pretty.
Well, have they presented a drawing that we have? Because I mean, if we can approve the deviation next meeting, it would save a step, since we're already meeting next month. If he brings a site plan for especially 30 Avenue, which is the point in,
But the ordinance won't be in place by then.
Yeah, 30 Avenue is already operating,
Yeah.
and so they're okay. They're back from the road. It's contained within the development. They've got their event permit.
well, I know,
They
but
just
it
can't
wasn't
have. They just can't have signage.
right, and
now.
and they weren't within the 150 feet, is from what my understanding.
Well, we don't
outside.
have a 150-foot rule. We don't have any rule
That's what,
yet.
right.
There's no rule yet.
Yeah, there's
Right.
no
Right,
rule
but
yet.
I mean, it was, it was
I
being
think
suggested for it to be there,
Yeah,
so.
I think we have just more of an issue with the Seascape because of the amount of tents that are out there right, in front of 98 in the parking lot and so forth. I don't know. I don't think we couldn't grant them an outdoor event permit with the tents all lined up there when they're actually prohibited in the Chapter 13 scenic corridor. That's what we're amending to allow farmers markets being
With
the
tents.
sole thing that can allow tents.
Right.
That's next on our list.
So this is a good kind of example of what I'm talking about, like 30 Avenue, the way the development is structured, it being within 75 feet, we're all talking hypotheticals here, but it works with that development. Now, I don't know that at Seascape with a big open parking lot, I would want them right
Further
up
back.
along. Right, I mean, see what I'm saying? So that's why I think if we decide that there's a good distance in general for most farmers markets, then if a specific development has a different scenario. And like for them, if it's 150 feet, they're like back behind the development. I mean, you know, so I think we could look at those on a case by case basis. And there shouldn't be very many of them.
No, there's not. And we could also align our tents in any kind of direction or stature that you guys are comfortable with. I mean, we weren't planning on lining them all up right on facing Highway 98. We usually put them like 6 or 7 tents in a row and we square ourselves. So the customers come in and they actually go around in a circle or a square. So, we set it up very nice looking as far as I'm saying.
Vivian, what's the clarification on the distance? Is it from the side of the asphalt? Or
No, from the DOT right away.
Right away, okay.
So,
And that one is, you can't really scale it off, but it goes to about not the first row of parking, but the second
Yeah, that's
row of
it.
parking is what Matt and I were
so
looking at.
so it goes back to the golf, where he's got a line says golf power easement? Is that
I
the
think
line?
it would be set back, I think it's a little further back than that. I think that the 75 foot would probably take out the first row line of parking.
Well, this one does,
Yeah.
so,
Because the building, I think they said was like almost exactly 400 feet off of, back off of the road.
okay, this building, yeah.
We're also looking at the exposure for the market for it to be successful. And behind the buildings, there's no exposure, there's no signs, there's no point.
Oh, we can understand that,
Yeah.
yeah. How many tents would you be putting in here?
As
How
many.
large is
Well,
it?
this is Seascape. We're looking
Seascape.
at Seascape.
Seascape, yeah.
Yes, I would say no more than 40. We have 45 currently at Rosemary Beach. And I know that's on 30A, but that's the way we set it up. You would never know it's that many. It's just the way we set it up. It could be as little as 15. It just depends on the time of the year, how many vendors want to participate, how many continue to come back, depending on how well they're doing. It's everything down here is pretty much seasonal, but we have our snowbird season coming up in January. It goes right into spring break, right into spring, right into summertime, and that would be an ideal time for us to be able to launch the market. Would be the second week in January, and then through September and see how it goes.
So Vivian, in this, I'm catching up. I think you just said this, but I was thinking or looking about something else. In Seascape's case, how far back would 150 feet be?
Well, let's see.
Probably that second row of parking.
Okay.
So 75 feet would be halfway between there and,
The DOT and probably the first row of parking would be about 75 feet.
How far is the golf power easement, if there's a line there?
looks like it might be about 150 feet. If they're saying the second row
See
of
there,
parking.
see this line here?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they're
Yeah.
saying it would be in
I
the
mean,
second row.
I'll go there
back.
tomorrow morning and actually walk it off
That's probably it.
with a measuring thing and from the DOT line, so we can have it perfectly specific instead of guesstimating.
There'll be 150 instead of
Well,
75.
if I take 60 feet based on the site plan scale,
The scale's
That-
gonna be off a little bit
the Gulf
because
Power easement line is about
It's just a-
120 feet
It's
back,
just a,
using this architectural
It's 120.
scale that's on the
Yeah.
bottom of the page.
Yeah.
That'd
So
be
120.
120 feet takes you back to that Gulf Power easement line. So
So this is-
150 feet would put you
further.
just a little bit further.
Well, think about the parking spaces are 20 feet deep.
So this is a good illustration of my point. Like, I think I would want the 150 feet to apply here. So that the market is not right up on the,
In your face on that.
right along the roadside, basically.
Well, there is that big, like, culvert between the road and
Oh, yeah.
where the,
It
where
would
the,
have- yeah, it
the
would
parking
have to
lot
be in the-
starts. You know, and it
Parking
looks like it's a lot more distance than that. I mean, really, when you're standing there, it really does. And they have like trees and bushes and everything else there.
But even in, you know, like, it would be in that first, very front edge of the parking lot, if it could be within 75 feet here, and that's closer
Yeah.
to the road than their buildings are.
Right. Well, we can move, that's what I'm saying, we can move it back 75 more feet, that's not a problem.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
and I'm just illustrating my point from earlier. Like, this is, am I making sense? Are y'all following?
I
Okay,
understand.
good, good.
Yeah, you want to reinstate the 150 feet instead of what they, you know, they deleted 150 feet on this draft. Or they're
That
saying they
was,
deleted.
yeah, that was my note. I took out the 150 feet. And then Diane had come back and recommended that the 75 would work. That's why I deleted the 150, so.
Mhm.
But that's
But
what
there's
my
no,
point is.
there's no, you know,
Like, for me, I would rather see 150 feet, and then if 30 Avenue the market at 30 Avenue comes forward and says, well, if 150 feet back is not workable for us, here's what we propose, and they show a site plan that shows the tent area, and we feel like it works with the development, then I'm okay with that. But I don't want, because 30 Avenue, 75 feet works, I don't think we should base the entire criteria
agree.
or standard.
You're saying take 30A Avenue and let it be the exception,
right.
If they
And-
want to,
and 150 feet would probably work
in most cases.
in most cases.
In
Correct.
blank parking lots.
Correct.
And if we needed a deviation, say 125 feet for Seascape, then we would submit it to you, correct?
Yeah, anybody can
Yeah.
submit a deviation.
Right.
And it would be based on what, how it's planned, how you're
Right.
proposing to put the
And you know,
tents.
all the vendors, you know, we don't park anywhere near the event. And, you know, the tents are all 10 by 10, they're all standard. And like I said, you know, we set them up to a point where it works for the crowd, so.
This would be tents, and it's crossing this line, but it wouldn't be such a nice one.
Y'all ready to move to the next thing? Or do we need to talk about that more?
We're going to item 3.
Yeah.
I just had, how are we going to gather the comments together to put them in the next package?
So, well, I was just throwing out a suggestion to address this gentleman's concerns. If we didn't have someone present at the next board meeting, we would at least have their comments.
I think we can go by what you've got here. I mean,
Just by the minutes, or?
mine's that I'm looking at still says 150 feet. Where is it marked?
That was my,
It's right
working
on
with
the
my
side.
tracking on the ordinance, I didn't change.
Oh, I got it.
deleted that because I was
You deleted it
looking-
from the text, but you put it in a comment.
Yeah, I made a comment which since Mac and I have since talked about,
I'm with
the
you.
parking lot, and then the 150 feet I had deleted,
I see.
and we'll just put that back in and change it to, or leave it however you end up deciding.
Gotcha.
Do you need more clarification on the 150 feet, Vivian? Or?
No, I don't need any.
Okay.
No. Just, I was just wondering how we were going to get the comments to the other board members. Would they be via the minutes or
Via the minutes.
via minutes? Okay, Karen. I'll help you. I'll help you.
I got it all memorized.
Okay.
Well, and we're not voting on this tonight. We're just
No.
having discussion. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we might have some more discussion next time. We could bring them up to speed that way
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
I'll just
Well,
throw
one of
out
the things that you
my
had
thoughts.
mentioned about it was that we would be able to get the comments out to them of what was discussed in.
Oh, I
So that
meant.
they-
I'm sorry, Vivian. I didn't speak clearly. I meant that if they wanted to continue this tonight and just have all their comments written,
Our comment.
that's right. That they
Oh,
could
okay,
discuss
right.
it at
And
the next
submit
board
them.
meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way, if one of us isn't here, we'll have that person's comments in writing to discuss among the people that are here. So our interested board member better make sure he's here. Yes. Next month.
Okay, moving on. The next one was the frequency of how many are to be allowed, say 1 per week, 2 per month, 2 per week, and that's just something we can insert the suggestion on that. Typical from my research is 1 per week per location. There have been some other suggestions of raising that to 2 per week.
And wasn't there a thought that actually came from one of the market folks that it could be an exception for 2 per week on holiday weeks?
Correct. It would be like
Right.
Memorial Day through Labor Day. We would want to, bump it up to 2 per week, and with of course, the property management's approval and everything else. Which I know Rosemary Beach. I keep bringing that up, and that's 30A. It's not a part, but we do Memorial Day through Labor Day out there every Thursday. That's why we do it every year. So we have 2 markets a week for 3 months, and then 52 weeks a year on Sunday.
Also, there was talk about, maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Oh yeah, just
That's what
special
I was-
one-time events like that. Yeah, like Watercolor does that every year. They do a big Christmas event right after Thanksgiving, and they invite all the vendors to do all the farmers markets from all over the Gulf Coast, and they put that big thing together.
I think for like Rosemary and Seaside, that will fall under their outdoor events already.
Yeah.
But farmers markets during the holidays. Now, are you talking about 2 per week per location from Memorial Day to Labor Day?
Well, that's something that, possibly. I mean, that's not something that, we have to have an answer on now, but, if it's a topic of the discussion, I would say yes, we would definitely like to entertain Memorial Day through Labor Day, having 2 a week at all of our current locations that we are doing once a week, 52 weeks a year right now. Have the option of doing it.
Just like Seaside was doing Tuesday, Saturday, and Rosemary was doing Thursday, Sunday.
At Grand Boulevard, we used to do Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah.
And we dropped the Wednesday after one season because it just didn't work out.
I think that could be fine. It
But
depends
you
on how it
don't,
looks.
you never need more than 2 days a week.
Well, we never have, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Diane because she's not here. She owns the markets, and that's something I could run by her. But like Vivian said, if there's special occasions where we want to do like a special Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas, not a wine thing or anything like that, but just 1 or 2, maybe a year or something like that. Definitely we would ask permission and get a permit or whatever we have to do.
I think that would be another consideration in terms of, if you want more than 2 a week, then you would have to be
Yeah,
you would have to present as a variance
sure.
to the board, and then we have to agree or not
So
agree. Or
could we
say
just ask for
no,
2 a week
Because I
and-
think 2 a week is
There you go.
enough.
There you go.
It's just,
I don't
You
want
know,
to see.
I don't want any more.
Yeah, so that will cover us for
Because-
everything.
even in New York City, they only have two days
Yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a deviation?
Mr. Chair, one other thing to consider, Matt Carver for the Planning Department. These are temporary events, which means they're not traffic generators in the context of our land development code and our concurrency management system. If they become too frequent, we will have to consider them regular uses, and we'll have to amend the development order and
That's right.
require traffic study because these are traffic generators.
Right.
If they're infrequent and not every day, then we have the opportunity to not consider them as such. But by the time we get 3 a week, we'll have to consider it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Too much.
specifically if you're using
It won't be
spaces.
special anymore, so it's
Right.
not temporary.
I agree. Yeah, we're not trying to get greedy or,
I don't think.
Plus, you burn it out, you ruin a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing about farmers market is that it's special.
Exactly.
Yep.
Too much frequency, it won't work.
So can we request, just for, on the record, 2 a week and just leave it at that?
I mean, the decisions will be made next month,
Okay.
so
Yeah, we're not gonna vote on it
I
right
think
now.
that's,
I mean, chances
On the
are,
table.
honestly, chances are,
it'll
in
be
the
one.
off-season, we're lucky that we have a good 1 week because of the number of people that actually participate and the number of tourists that are in town or the locals that actually come to the market. So, I can honestly tell you from September to January, we're not gonna have 2 a week anywhere.
Well, I would just say that, if you want 2 a week, it would be predetermined times frame, rather than all year
Sure,
round.
sure, okay. Well, that's fine. I'll get with my, partner and we'll come up with something and we'll pass it along to Vivian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next item would be the signage, and that is section D, or letter D. Right now, what we have recommended is that it can be on an approved reader board on the main monument sign. However, the vendors are market managers. They're looking at additional signage. And
I think that would be enough. I mean, just a title of farmer's market in the monument. That would give you you don't want individual publicity for each one of the tents.
No,
Right.
that's not what we're
No,
looking
that,
for.
yeah.
I'm talking like example and very tastefully done, by the way. Use an example, a sandwich board sign says farmers market 9 to 1, just for the day of the event. Put it up an hour before the event, take it down at 1 o'clock. The market's over at 1, because, for example, at 30 Avenue, the speed limit there is 55 miles an hour. You've got 10,000 cars a day, peak season, coming by. Nobody knows we're there until they're halfway by, their peripheral vision looks over, sees tents. They're not going to slam on their brakes.
Right, but you're having a sign on the main monument.
But it's,
Board.
I understand that. And basically where the marquee sign is, it's actually, until you right up, come up on it, you see it.
Well, and
Well,
the
the same thing
development,
would be with the sandwich boards, unless you put them,
Well, the way the property is over there, I could actually put a sandwich board, 100 feet east of,
and then you would have to put another one on the other end.
right, and it's still on the same piece of property,
So that's
but it's
the
just a
point.
temporary.
That's the point. There's 2 signage. I mean, we're trying to avoid signage. like
Okay,
that.
I'm just throwing this out there,
Yeah,
Like
I
at
mean-
Seascape, they don't have a marquee.
well, and that's another issue, is that some places don't have a monument sign,
Okay.
and some places the owner developer may not allow them to add that to the monument sign. That's gonna be up to the owner
Okay,
of the
well,
complex, but
I
I'm just
didn't
saying
think
those
about
are
that,
things
you know.
to think about.
I didn't know.
My
not
concern
a
is
big
a
sandwich
sandwich board
sign
is so
fan.
small, and if you
Yeah.
are driving at 45 or 50 miles an hour, if that letters on it aren't at least 6 inches tall, you're not even gonna know it. You're gonna blink and it's gone.
I've got other signs as well.
Yeah.
They're black wrought iron and they're bright yellow with big red letters, says Farmers Market. And I used those at Seascape 2 years ago. And, they were on the property and everybody saw them. They stick out because they're bright.
Yeah.
I'm almost of the opinion that we would have to look at using something like the monument sign, and then having an option that if the market person wanted to come and get permission and have a sign approved to be used at a particular location,
Okay.
then that could be
And
an option.
Like
It would
those
be-
feather things?
the number
No,
of
that won't
signs
happen.
too.
No, that's not working.
Well, I'm throwing things
No,
out
he's
there.
just saying
Yeah.
whatever it was,
Yeah.
it would come to this board for approval.
Right. But I would have to figure out what type of sign I would want.
It'll have to be consistent with chapter 13,
Okay,
and that those feather deals are not.
okay.
I love those things. I've got an event going on right now in Blue Water Bay, and I got about a half a dozen of those feather things up.
Oh, Lordy. In
But,
Blue Water Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And just like for me personally, I don't care how nicely it's lettered. I think a plastic sandwich board sign looks terrible and cheap in every single one I've ever seen. Now I've seen some metal ones and some wooden ones that are nicely done that look pretty. I mean, that
I just
has a
personally
totally different
don't
look.
like sandwich boards.
Well,
you
I
know,
don't.
I mean-
I
Well,
don't
throw
see-
Scale of them are
throw
too
some
small,
recommendations at me
plastic.
so I can start,
Yeah.
get this going.
size, color, and shape. Read chapter 13.
Okay,
And I think that'll give you as much direction as the board could give you
okay.
for an option to the monument sign, if you've got a location on that.
Yeah, there might be something that could
You
be
could-
nice looking.
Exactly, you design it, and anything can be designed right.
Anything.
Just,
Yep.
And these are up and down in
The same
a
day.
day,
Correct.
5 hours.
so.
Because like, when you think about it, like we also have to be careful with this because sandwich board signs are not allowed in general, correct? In general today, on 98. And so if all of a sudden farmers markets start popping up with sandwich board signs, everybody else is gonna get all in a tizzy. Or if the snipe signs, the little stick in the ground, everybody else is gonna get
See,
in
I'm
a
not a
tizzy.
big fan of those, the
So,
ones like you
if
get
it-
at Home
Yeah,
Depot.
no.
You want to make it special.
But if it's
Exactly.
something
And
that
unique.
looks
Yes.
I mean, that
Different
says
good.
To the
farmer's
market,
market.
unique to the market.
So,
Sure.
but not sandwich boards are everywhere, and in
What do you
30A they just have gotten so.
it's a mess.
I mean, it's just total mess.
It is.
It's just overkill, and I just
So
don't
that's
like
something to
them.
consider for next month.
Yeah.
We expect that to be something.
Bless you.
Huh?
It is the land development code portion of our comp plan update project.
You expect it to be what, Matt?
Specifically referred to the land development code update, the decision on sandwich board signs on 30A. So it's possible they could go away.
Good.
Next year.
Good. I'm all
And
for it.
98, sounds for
Pretty
sounds.
much gone.
I really want to.
Every employee on 30A has their own sandwich board.
I
Not on
really.
38 either.
They're everywhere.
I've been really wanting to have a board for scenic night 30A, just like this board, because 30A is getting destroyed.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
I know,
Yes.
unfortunately.
But yes,
Okay,
that
now,
would be.
will there be a limit to the number of signs
Yes.
if they're approved?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That's
But
one
just
of the,
make them beautiful. Go to a designer to
Oh, I
design
get a carpenter
something
to
that
make
makes,
something that's, just beautiful.
But the carpenter's a carpenter. He's not a designer. You should try to go to a designer so that you can
Okay.
come up with something that's unique
What's the distance,
and it's
Matt?
beautiful.
If you were in chapter 13, what's the distance you can have on your property? 150 feet
between
between the
monuments.
signs?
One per
And then 150,
One,
huh?
one,
per 400.
Okay, so that answers your question.
one
Okay.
per 400 feet.
So I could probably put 2 signs at 30 Avenue.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
wrong
mean,
property.
but so you want, you want to have something, not a sandwich board, which
No.
nobody's going to see. You want something that's beautiful. So then it becomes unique, and then nobody's going to say, "Well, I want to
Sure.
put another sandwich board," or it's going to become
And
a
that's
problem
gonna,
for us.
and that's going to end up being your brand.
Yeah.
People are going to see your
Absolutely.
brand by the road, and they're going to say, "Oh gosh,
Absolutely.
we like this
Well,
these people."
if we can get that approved, you guys would be all impressed with whatever it is we come up with if it gets approved.
Just
Yeah.
go to get a really good designer
Yeah, we will.
that comes up with something unique.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you just have, maybe come up with a sample.
Yeah, we'll take pictures or
and,
whatever.
and have it at the next board
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay,
Right.
definitely. Okay.
Unfortunately, I won't be here, but
Write it up.
yeah.
Well-
Well, I won't see his samples.
Well, we'll take pictures of it and they'll send you text messages with pictures of it.
No,
So
we
you-
won't.
I'm on vacation. I'm outside the country. I'm out of the country.
Okay.
Okay, ready to move on
Okay,
to
great.
the last item, tents, and that would be what we could add as item E, under signage, and then whatever specifications you want for tents.
I think my only specification for me is that they all be the same color, because then if you have different colors, it starts looking, too circus-like.
I think that was clearly displayed in the pictures we were sent that are part of the attachments on the agenda. The different ones, do you see that? You could tell the ones that had a requirement for a consistent look and the ones that didn't. It really made a difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, I visually, and if I think at one point the last time somebody suggested that the vendors, some vendors couldn't afford it to have that. Maybe the development can have a certain amount of tents for their, you know, that they can donate,
Right,
and they, you know, it would be used by that development.
right.
Yeah,
So.
I would say a consistent color and a consistent size.
Well, they all have to be 10 by 10.
And that came up that you might have a vendor that's not big enough. Well, they can have
Well, they
two
have
10
two
by
of them.
10s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, everybody gets theirs at like Sam's Club because they're sturdy. You know, you get about 4 or 5 years, you get a good warranty on them. And they're pricey. They're $225. I just got a brand new one 2 weeks ago. They're $225. But we do have one vendor that has he sells meats, and he's called the Caveman, and his tent is orange because his banners and all of his marketing is orange. His t-shirts that he wears, everything. And he's well known throughout the Gulf Coast. You know, and I know that would be an eyesore if we had 30 white tents and one orange one.
Well,
Well, you know, I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
you know, that's
exactly.
easier said than done. It really is, because you're telling somebody else. I'm not.
if he wants to be
I
in
don't
the farmer's
disagree.
market, he
see,
has
well,
to.
here's an example. Like Walmart, they want to brand all of their stores with their corporate colors, which are basically a few different shades of gray
Uh-huh.
and bright blue at their sign. And we asked them to come back when they requested that last month, and that's Walmart. Like on the corridor, people they can't always do what they normally do.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that makes this corridor different and better, in my opinion.
It's
Different.
uniform.
Yeah, there's a uniformity, and uniformity in form creates a really nice aesthetic.
I have no problem with that.
So that's what makes us different.
I mean,
Right.
we will enforce that. It's not we can, we will enforce that. That won't be an issue. That won't be an issue.
Caveman can have his orange anywhere else.
Anywhere
but
else, yeah.
It's
But on the
just like,
98
I mean,
corridor.
they did that for McDonald's in Europe. I mean, you know, they didn't allow the McDonald's, you know, you see it in old buildings, and it's not the McDonald's signs.
Yeah.
I bet they still make a ton of money though.
Yeah, they do.
But we would go with, we're
They
gonna
were
go
packed.
we're gonna go with white here, right? That's what we're doing. Because,
Well,
That would be
whatever,
my
you know,
suggestion.
yeah.
well, because that's basically,
Most of them are white.
most of them are, and those are the best ones you can buy. And you really can't buy that same tent in a different color.
Fair enough.
It's
I think.
it's called a pop-up.
and white is it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yep.
it's
And
a
like
good,
you said, you know,
safe
if you
color.
got 40 vendors and everybody's the same color, it looks really good.
Right.
And then each and every vendor has their own little banner underneath of it. Like, you know, our farmer has really nice banners with pictures of peaches and tomatoes and very tastefully done.
And that's fine.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we wanted to, you know, just discuss and throw out there with you about the signage, you know. Now, maybe not for 98, Scenic Corridor 98, but, you know, most of the time when you see a farmer's market, you see signs that have peaches and like a basket of apples or something like that because people associate that with farmers, you know. Now, one of my farmers suggested, you know, and I'm just doing this for him, that he be able to put a sign up that has farm, you know, like vegetables and stuff like that on a picture, you know, on a sign, and just
In his,
no on as far as
As a sign.
because
For
it would be
farmers market.
it would you know signify a farmers market. But I'm just
I
throwing.
think you
Well-
would have to make the decision as the management company if you want to give up one of your signs for him to do that.
I
Well,
mean,
If the event were allowed, if it would 30, Avenue 38, if it's got enough property to afford you two signs,
Mhm.
assuming that's permissible, you know, passes the board,
mhm.
those would be two signs for the event. If you, as the director of the event, the owner of the event, chose to give up one of your two signs to the
Okay.
guy with the basket of apples,
Right,
it would just have to be approved by the board.
sure, okay, I got
See what
you.
I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So
We
you
don't
would-
want 50 basket of apples and tomatoes
Gotcha.
and cucumbers along 98.
I
I
see.
don't have to say that any other way.
Okay,
I agree. And I think that's the direction it was going the last meeting too, with the tents. I'm back to the tents and all the signs. Like a ping pong here.
Okay.
I have another question about the signs. They have to be on the property?
Yes.
Versus,
FDOT will not allow them
Okay.
in there right away.
that's right.
Okay.
They'll-
I was just thinking like, going towards Bay County before you go over the bridge, going
And I don't
east.
think Walton
Oh.
County allows a sign to
Off-premise.
be off-premise sign.
Yeah.
You have to own. the
You're gonna
property
have
put
to
the
be
sign
on your
Right,
property.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can't start signage from
That
the
will
Walton
get pulled
County
down
Bay
quickly.
line, you know.
I'm always thinking, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm
Hey,
always thinking too. It's
I'm just trying to capture an audience that I know once we are able, if and when we're able to put our signs up, they're gonna add a tremendous amount of foot traffic to our markets and to the merchants at 30 Avenue, and that's why we're here.
Could I ask a question? Is this the only form of advertising you do, putting up a physical sign?
Oh, no, we've got advertising on Facebook, 106.3.
Have you done any kind of analysis of your or your traffic to determine where your advertising is best
Well,
placed?
I'm not in charge of the marketing, Diane is, but that's something I can ask her and have her get back to you on Vivian on, for sure. I mean, we're working on it, I mean, we've been very successful with Grand Boulevard and with Rosemary, and now people know we're there. It's not that we don't advertise, we Facebook that all the time, but with 30 Avenue being a new market, that's why we're advertising it on 106.3, and we're just, beating the heck out of it on Facebook. We're in certain different publications, Beachcomber and a couple other publications, and if and when we can open up Seascape Farmers Market, we're going to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Why are we addressing, so we got tents down here again,
Where do I have tents again?
bottom of page 4?
Oh, you
There's
must,
a page 4?
no, you
there's no
might be
page
on a
4.
different, you might be on the other
It
one.
might be on the original one that's.
The
no
original
longer-
one was behind,
This is
This
3
one.
pages, yeah.
yeah. Wait, I took out a lot of language. I
Number
still,
You looked
Yeah.
at the wrong thing this whole time.
You're going to the, he's going,
he's going down the long version.
yeah. That was draft.
So what Vivian said, I believe I heard you say, is that if there are restrictions on tents, it would be added here as letter E.
Yes,
It's currently not in this draft.
correct.
I do remember you saying that.
That is correct.
And that's, like I said, that won't be a problem. If that's something that you implement into the, provisions, that'll happen day one.
And I'll go ahead and put that in the working draft because I think that's probably going to have consensus.
I think so too.
So it'll just be further discussion of signs and location.
Great.
Okay. Was that everything, Vivian?
That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I guess for the next meeting, I'll still send out an email and I'll just say if any of the board members won't be at the meeting, if they want to provide their comments on the ordinance, and you guys will have them in November, so you can at least consider them before voting on it. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yeah, I probably just mentioned all my comments.
Probably.
So-
So if there's nothing to add, then don't worry
Yeah.
about that. But just in case, we could give everyone the opportunity.
So what will happen at the next meeting?
They'll make a recommendation. They'll vote on a draft. From there, it'll go to the planning commission, and after the planning commission considers it and makes a recommendation, it'll go to the board of county commissioners.
Okay.
I'll have to have 2 hearings before the Board of County Commissioners, before adoption.
Okay, so this could take well into January or?
Well, I'd be looking at, because we currently have it scheduled for Planning Commission next
I
week.
see.
We were gonna fast track it right behind,
Gotcha.
so,
So it could go to Planning Commission in November.
yes.
And then
1 week
BCC.
after this meeting,
Yeah, in November, that would be great.
November, yeah.
And then BCC in December and January.
Yeah, because I'd really like to be able, if we're approved at Seascape with the variance, I'd really like to, because I know for a fact, you know, I live on the property and snowbird season kicks in the first week and that whole resort is packed. And
I
it's
think
on
that's
property.
doable.
Excuse me?
That seems doable,
Yeah.
especially since we've organized
I was
ourselves.
fixing to say, I think we've had a lot of discussion and we
Yes.
understand it a lot better.
Yeah.
This is, what have we, this 3 times?
At least.
Yeah. We appreciate.
Well, I appreciate your
We
input.
appreciate your involvement and your
Yeah.
comments.
Thank
And
you.
patience.
Oh, no
Yes.
worries.
I would suggest chapter 13.
I'm I'm all over it.
That way you'll know what we have
We'll
to
I got you.
BCC
focus
here.
on. We'll
Make
all
a
be on
meeting.
the same page.
I'm with you.
Meetings.
Absolutely. I appreciate all your input
One
as
of them
well.
has to be after 5 o'clock.
So, you know, we're all just trying to grow together, right?
Here we
Yep.
go.
All right.
That's
Do
right.
what's right for the county.
I know. All right, we all
Susan,
care
do
about
you have
this
anything
county.
else?
Thank you.
Normally they can't.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So now, I guess if we could just have a motion to continue
Oh,
the consideration of the ordinance to the next meeting.
You got something else, Vivian?
Oh, sorry.
I can either show you, it's
Oh,
a very long chapter.
Motion to continue.
I can show you
Tell me
where
where
it
to
is.
find it.
Second.
Okay.
Lee,
Motion to continue. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let me just email it to Diane. Tell her where to find it, and then I'll work.
Okay,
I
what's next?
think I can email the whole thing, yeah.
Now we got the other workshop.
You want to have a motion to continue the public workshop?
Yes, it's very easy.
Yes,
Yeah,
but I have a
just email her the
suggestion.
link.
Why don't you continue it?
Either that or you can just come in.
Can we continue
and
it?
I'll show you.
Okay, I'll wait.
There's really no rush on that.
no.
There's nothing
And I think we're waiting on David anyway on
Well,
that as
that's
well
not
for the lighting.
comment.
Yeah, we're done with signage, aren't we?
Yeah.
I believe so. I think it's just David's comments on the lighting. So if you
So-
guys want to wait until he's here next month, that makes
Yes,
sense.
and here was my suggestion, if staff could get with David, because I think he actually wanted to bring in a consultant or an expert from that
He
Dark
mentioned
Dark
that.
Skies program. So he's a very busy man. If we can just,
I'm gonna go show him,
Hurry.
to chapter 13.
great, thank you.
Maybe Tim.
Maybe just hurry that
You could
up.
reach out to David about that.
Because I just want it to come to
Yeah.
closure. This one's been on a lot of agendas too.
If I remember, we dealt with color of light, now we have to deal with quantity of light.
Something like that. So, I'll
So
move.
do I have a motion to continue the public workshop?
Motion to continue the public workshop.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you all.
Right.
I think so.
What? He doesn't like it.
Oh, in that middle spot, you mean?
Yeah.
I thought you meant
I don't
here in
like
these
it either.
meetings.
The microphone counts a lot more.